You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Mike.
And I'm Justin.
And this is episode 57, Taito Zuntata.
Yeah, this is going to be a heck of a heckin' episode. There's a lot of really good stuff. I mean, they are entrenched in so many classic games that it's just impossible to do this without just rocking out.
Yeah. Pretty much we're doing a deep dive on Zuntata, the house band of the development company and publishing company Taito. Taito eventually was bought out by Square Enix, so Zuntata's still kind of kicking around. Mm-hmm. We'll talk all about them. We've got some details on the group, their shows, and more. But, we couldn't start off, we couldn't do a Zuntata episode without picking, I know this is a deep dive, but we had to play this song that we came in on. What did we come in on for this?
Yeah, so we came in on Daddy Mulk. Now, don't make the mistake that I made when I first heard about this and think it's actually Daddy Milk. Nothing to do with milk. Daddy Mulk, M-U-L-K.
I don't want to know what... Daddy Milk just sounds wrong on every level.
It does. In fact, we should probably cut that entire thing now.
Nope. Never, ever.
But the track came from the game Ninja Warriors, which was released in the arcades in 1988, on the Mega CD in 1993, and PC Engine and the Atari ST in 1989. So that was the arranged version, and it was originally composed by Hisayoshi Ogura and was arranged by Junichi Kawaguchi.
Right, yeah. Zuntata is a group full of tons of different members, so we're going to be talking about a bunch of different Japanese men and women and people. So this is specifically the Mega CD version. Only came out in Japan on the Mega CD. There's other consoles that it came out for, or computer systems. There's like the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64. I think it's came out in the Amstrad CPC. Like all these like various different systems that it came out on. So it's not just the the more like console based stuff. But I want to point out one specific element that I think Justin's really going to go bananas for.
Oh, I wrote it down. He's got
you did?
12 question marks and an exclamation point at the end of it.
Yes.
Go ahead, say it.
The shamisen solo.
Heck yeah.
heck yeah. That's a heckin' good time.
It was. As soon as I heard it, I perked right up and I was like, we haven't been able to talk about the shamisen legitimately on this show in a while, and it's great that we're bringing it back.
That's right. We're bringing it back. I really enjoyed that solo, and I gotta say, if you've ever heard it live, not live as in like time travel back to 1993 and hear it live, but if you've ever seen video of them doing it live on YouTube, like it is phenomenal because they actually bring out like a professional like shamisen player. I don't know if they're a part of Zuntata, the shamisen player, but they have somebody there just rocking out on a shamisen. It's awesome.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
I hope that they're actually part of Zuntata, because, I mean, how can you create great music for video games and live in Japan and not have a shamisen in your house band? It doesn't add up.
That's 100% correct. I think all video game music that comes out of Japan should have shamisens, but that's just me.
Well, I would agree with you. If you have a house band for your video game development company and your house band doesn't have a shamisen, then you're doing it wrong.
Dude, you know what we should do? We should start a video game music cover band, but it's all shamisens.
Yes.
All shamisens, and then like there'll be one drummer, but they'll be playing like the
upside down shamisens.
Upside down shamisen. Yep. There you go. Perfect. Millions of dollars flowing our way.
One thing. Do you have any experience with this game? I assume you do. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't, and I have to ask you, how do you even play this game? Because I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to play it because I'd be too busy dancing. Like this. Yeah. This song is too crazy.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's definitely one of those booty shakers. Like I picture like if I was playing this on the arcade, I would just be like grooving my butt. I would just be hanging out, grooving my butt, playing some Ninja Warriors, rocking out to Daddy Mulk. The game is a I guess action beat 'em up kind of style game where you are playing as one of two ninja characters. One is the kunoichi, the female ninja, and then is the male ninja. I don't know if he has an actual name or not, but it's blue and like pinkish, reddish color. The reddish one is the female. And first off, they're both robots.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's important to note. And she's the only character that transfers over to the Ninja Warriors once again, it's called, which came out in the Super NES. It's developed by Natsume.
Right, yep.
It's the other beat 'em up based on Ninja Warriors that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one
I thought that was just
everyone
a
knows.
port of this. Like, didn't...
No.
So it's not a direct port. Oh.
It is a totally brand new game, sequel, I guess, or reimagining of Ninja Warriors. Totally.
What about they re-released on PlayStation 4 in 2019 as Ninja Warriors Once More Again or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that is basically HD. It's a remaster of the original game.
Oh, the original, not the SNES.
Yeah, the SNES one.
Oh, okay.
But apparently, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think you can unlock the soundtrack to the original Ninja Warriors, and you could play that. This game it's okay. It's nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as the Super NES game. It's fun. The cool thing about the arcade is that it's dual screen.
Dual tri-screen.
The arcade version.
It's 3.
Or tri-screen, that's right. Yeah, it's tri-screen. So, like, I just can't even imagine mentally seeing that in an arcade. I've never seen Ninja Warriors in the arcade.
Oh, no?
So,
I haven't seen it in person, but I have seen like what the cabinet looks like. So apparently the center screen is a regular TV, and then the two side screens are like projection TVs. Okay. So I guess when done correctly, it looks pretty seamless. And I have to say, it looks pretty cool. Like I've never seen an arcade cabinet with a screen that long.
yeah. I mean, the closest thing I can think of is like X-Men Arcade, like the 6-player version.
Yeah, you got
because that has 2 screens.
Yep, and so. I mean, technically, any of those driving games, if you ever seen them where it's got like the one big screen and then the 2 side screens, that's similar, but like that's for a particular effect. Whereas this is just like we want as much stage space as we can get.
Right. So, yeah, but this is the Mega CD port, which is cool because they added a bunch of, like, ridiculous, like, live-action cutscenes in there, too. So it's a very wacky experience to play. I wouldn't say it's worth hunting down. I think you can play the arcade version on, like, Switch, PS4, etc. Nowadays. But if you really want this version and this soundtrack and everything, the Mega CD version, you could probably download like a ROM of it and then like change the BIOS to be North American, and then you could play it on the Sega CD.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. But yeah, Daddy Mulk, amazing track. It's like one of the most well-known Zuntata tracks. Like if you mention Zuntata to any video game music nerd, they're gonna say, Ninja Warriors, Daddy Mulk.
Yep.
And right after that, they say Psychic Force. Burning Storm. So, those are the two. At least in my opinion, those are the two like most popular.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I found when I was doing research for this episode was around the Darius series. So I don't know exactly how popular that series is, but I mean popular enough that it's got its own wiki, and I found a lot of information there, and as well as like Wikipedia. But I was also surprised at how few other places there were information about Zuntata.
Yeah. So Junichi Kawaguchi only did the arrangement for Ninja Warriors. Other than that, Hisayoshi Ogura, we're going to talk about throughout this episode. I believe he is the founder of Zuntata. Yeah,
I know. I do know that he's one of the OG Zuntata guys. I mean, he left. I think before the Square Enix buyout. But I think he's often referred to or referenced as OGR.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We won't dive too deep into him because we want to get to our next track.
Yes.
And that next track is from a game called Aqua Jack. This came out in the arcade in 1990, and this song is called Game Start BGM1. It's kind of a twofer because it starts with the Game Start mode, and then it kicks into the BGM1. And this track is by Shizuo Izawa. Hey, thanks for joining us back on our Zuntata deep dive. That track was from a game called Aqua Jack, and it was kind of like two songs in one. That was from the arcade game that came out in 1990, and that track was called Game Start /BGM1, and it's by Shizuo Izawa. So this track was pretty rockin'. It kind of starts off with that squeal of the tires and, the sound effect.
I did like the sound effects.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. And Zuntata has always done like a lot of weird, wacky stuff with sound effects. Going back to Ninja Warriors, the whole Daddy Mulk like creepy robot voice, Daddy
the bee boop. Yeah,
Daddy do that.
I was gonna say something about it, but there was just it was cool, but it wasn't anything that needs to be addressed. But yes, I did like that.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard it, it was pretty silly. So it's cool to see a group use sound effects within the music in lots of different games, not just these two. So then once it kicks into that BGM 1 track, it's just like the perfect track for this type of game. It's very energetic, very rocking. You can definitely hear like the hard rock vibe to it, but it still has that Japanese flavor that was coming out of like the late 80s, early 90s.
Definitely not enough shamisen, but
yeah, it definitely needs more shamisen for sure.
Yeah, I did like this one overall. It was a little bit weird at points. So I really liked the chuggy rhythm guitars. I really liked that like melody guitar. I don't know if it's supposed to be a guitar or just a synth, but I really enjoyed the melody that they had going on there, and like the note bends and everything else that was going on in the melody was just really cool. But there's this, I don't even know how to describe it. I wrote down breathy synth, but there's just this element in there that's kind of out of place to me and a little bit creepy, and it just kind of, it's in the background and it kind of just sounds like something going, I don't know how to explain it. All I know is I heard it and it was just like, that sounds weird.
Are you sure that your headphones are not haunted?
Okay, I thought you were going somewhere else. I was about to tell you that I mute my microphone when I listen, but yeah, no, I don't think my headphones are haunted.
Okay, all right, just checking. You never know.
Yeah.
So this is a arcade 3D shooter or pseudo 3D shooter kind of. Best way to explain it is if you've ever played Afterburner, it's like Afterburner, but you're playing on like a hovercraft instead of like an airplane.
Oh.
So kind of like a tank sort of thing, but it can also go on like water. Mm-hmm. Pretty neat. You're fighting against all different types of vehicle-based enemies. Stuff like helicopters, planes, tanks, boats, all sorts of wacky stuff like that. So you have like a main weapon that's like unlimited, use. And then you've got bombs that you can acquire. You have the ability to do like a boost mode in the game. And then also you can do like jumping and stuff with the craft. So
the hovercraft jumps?
Yeah.
You have to, well, I mean, I'm curious to, like, is it jumping over enemies? Is it jumping over, like, rocks?
Well, I mean, like, there's different mines and stuff. There's, like, mines and, like, mines and bullets and different things that you need to watch out for. So I would imagine jumping kind of comes into play.
That's cool.
In that aspect. I don't remember if there's any kind of, like, platforming or anything like that. I don't think so, but I'd say it has more in common with a shooter than a running gun.
Yeah. Well, that's neat.
Yeah, like on rails sort of thing. But it's got 8 levels. It's a pretty wacky time. This is the type of game that was coming out back then that, I feel like was you could only do at that time. Like I don't think a game like this could ever come out like nowadays. You know what I mean? There'd have to be so much more to it.
Yeah, you know what it almost reminds me of, and I say this very loosely, is like Twisted Metal. It's the behind the view of the car. You're always looking at the back of your car or your vehicle, and I mean, like I said, very loosely, it's clearly not Twisted Metal, but just like the style, very proto, because it's not polygons. We're still dealing with sprites, and like you were saying, it's not 2.5. It's sort of 3D, but it's not done in a 3D fashion. It's not polygons, it's still pixels. That's what I was looking for, pixels.
Right. Yeah. More like sprite based or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But neat.
Yeah, pretty cool. The composer Shizuo Izawa started off doing music for Superman in 1988 and then did Rastan in 88 as well and Operation Thunderbolt in 88. Their last two games were in 2006 and 2009, Over G Fighters and then Space Invaders Extreme 2. They were a voice data editor on the Over G Fighters, and then their last composition was the Space Invaders Extreme 2 in 2009.
Very cool.
Yeah. So what do you got for your first pick?
All right, so I'm going to start off with a game called G Darius, which came out in the arcade and the PlayStation 1 in 1997. This track is track 08, and it was composed by Hisayoshi Ogura.
Meditation.
Hey listeners, what's up? That was G Darius, the arcade and PS1 game that came out in 1997. Track 08 was the song that we heard, and it was composed by Hisayoshi Ogura. And it was pretty short and sweet, but what did you think?
Oh, well, I was going to say, G, Justin, it kind of sounds like a Darius track.
I can appreciate the joke. Yeah, no, that's fair, and that's because it is technically.
It's very bombastic.
Yeah.
And it's very loud, too. And we both kind of felt that way, too, because, like, when we got done with the track, like, I was like, yeah, I had to lower it, and you were like, yeah, me too. So we'll balance that out a little bit when we do the actual, you know.
Yeah, you probably will be wondering what we're talking about, because it should not blow your eardrums out. But
Yeah,
when we started it up, like, I had my headphones on, and I was just like, I pulled them away from my head because it was so loud.
But at the same time, like, a good use of instrumentation with more like classical arrangement, like instruments.
Yeah. So this one, I mean, this isn't the entire reason that I picked it, but a portion of my thought process was actually coming out of last episode with the homework and whatnot. You had that Destroy All Humans track that had that cool trippy audio sample and everything else.
Yeah.
That they use. And I mean, in this one, they start out with that and they don't really reuse it. But when I heard that, just the tone of it and the quality of it reminded me of the Destroy All Humans track from that episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well,
what does he say again? Not the Destroy All Humans track, but the G Darius. I'm trying to remember. It, like, left my head immediately. Yeah. He says, meditate.
Yes.
Meditation.
Yes. That is correct. But yeah, it just the quality and the sound on that audio, just like I said, reminded me of the track that you picked, and the rest of it I really liked. So it made its way into this episode because of all that. So
that's cool.
G Darius is the fourth installment of the Darius series, which are a shoot 'em up. It's a side-scrolling left to right scrolling shmup series.
Right.
And this one in particular, G Darius, is the first to feature 3D polygonal graphics. So this came out in the PlayStation 1 era, where polygons were starting to become the big thing. We didn't use sprites anymore, so this was the first in the game.
It was of that era when you had game developers really pushing to go with the 3D aspects of a traditional 2D type game. You know, there were a lot of companies doing that, and I think a lot of that was a push from Sony too. Sony was very much adamant about, you know, getting away from 2D and pushing into the realm of 3D.
Sony has done good and bad things over the years, and I mean, for what it's worth, the PS1 was a great success. That whether that's due to Sony being shady on things or because they were really pushing for innovation. But I just know that the PS1 I enjoyed, the PS2 was fantastic, and the PS3 was where Sony lost me. I mean, they got me back with the PS4, but like I was very anti-Sony for most of the PS3's lifespan because
same here.
Yeah, they were just
I was
they
the
were
360
awful.
guy. Yeah, I was the 360 guy the whole way.
Like one of the things about G Darius, aside from being the first in its series to do polygonal graphics, they added this mechanic to the game called beam dueling. So I just thought this was really cool because it comes into play during the boss battles. So during the game, you can capture enemies and then you can absorb them and fire this laser beam. It goes over a period of time and it just destroys nearly everything on screen, or anything it comes into contact with just dies. But the boss fights, every major boss has basically an equivalent laser beam. So if you save it and you use it on the boss, they do their laser beam, and then you've got almost like a DBZ beam struggle thing going on. And it's a cool way to either severely damage, or if you've done enough damage to start, to beat the boss with this beam struggle. It's a really cool concept, and it looks pretty. There's a lot of colors.
So when you say absorb, are you saying that like the enemy ships get devoured, meaning like there's nothing left? Or do you like hold on to them like in Zero Wing where you could like shoot them back out?
So one of the weapons, or one of the things that you have in your arsenal is called the capture ball. It sounds kind of like Pokemon now. But you can launch those to capture the enemies, and then once they're captured, they follow and aid you. They're almost like options in in Great.
Kind of reminds me of like a Gradius R-type sort of thing mixed with Zero Wing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Gee, that sounds like Darius.
Yes, it definitely.
I'm sorry. I made that joke again.
It's all right.
I'm just failing left and right.
No,
Anyways,
no shamisen, so
no shamisen. Striking out with the shamisen. Yeah. So Hisayoshi Ogura, tell me more about this gentleman.
So Hisayoshi Ogura is also known as I mentioned earlier, OGR, or H. Ogura, and they started out doing music composition for a game that you're pretty familiar with, I think, 1985, Legend of Cage, or Legend of Kage.
Yes, Legend of Cage, aka Legend of Kage.
Yep. So that was their start, according to Moby Games, and they are pretty prolific, might be the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah, prolific, yeah.
But they are like the core of Zuntata for the longest time. I'm just going to pick a couple other things out of here that are games we are not covering.
Okay.
Because there's other stuff on here that we're going to talk about them again for later. So, Rainbow Islands in 1987.
I have to stop you because there's a game on here that you are a super big fan of that...
Are you
that
sure?
came out on the Super NES.
It is?
Yes.
Oh, that is the one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Alien vs. Predator, the Super NES game.
Yeah, 1993. They were on the sound team.
Yeah. So there you go.
Nice. In 1989, they did music composition on Sagaya. In 1992, they did all the music on Galactic Storm. And then their last music composition credit here is for Darius Burst in 2009.
Cool. So just to explain a little bit about Zuntata. Zuntata is the quote-unquote house band, or the core sound department of the Japanese video game developer / publisher Taito. So that is who they are. If you're familiar with like the Konami Kukeiha Club or Alf Lyla, which is Capcom's sound team, they are very similar. The Sega sound team, that's another one, SST.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's a ton of house bands that were created to kind of not only to create music for the games, but also to do like live performances too of that music, because, obviously video game music is or was way more popular in Japan than in the US back in the day. Nowadays, I mean, it's a much bigger thing. But, I mean, yeah, we have concerts and stuff, but, like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, Japanese developed games were the composers and arrangers and everything. Those house bands were that was their home, Japan. So they were more likely to play concerts there than, go to America and play, this music for these games that half of them didn't even come out in the U.S.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think Zuntata, if they weren't the first, they were one of the first. Like the whole house band concept, I don't think really came around until Zuntata did it, and then these other publishers were like, "That's a good idea." For the most part, it was just like there were composers and sound teams, but I don't think they're like Zuntata. As you're saying, you can go see them play, or you could go see them play.
They started off in 1983, at least in terms of like the origins of the company, founded by Ogura. But 1988 was their like first named game, which was the Ninja Warriors. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, what do you say we get into some more music? I've got a pick coming up that I think is pretty rocking.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's from a game called Psychic Force, and this came out on the arcade and the PlayStation 1 in 1996. This track is not Burning Storm. It is called Carry Away. It is Sonya's theme, and it's by Hideki Takahagi. Welcome back to XVGM Radio. That was Psychic Force, the arcade and PlayStation 1 game that came out in 1996. That track was called Carry Away, Sonya's theme, and it's by Hideki Takahagi. That was something, huh?
Yeah, that was... I know you just used the term bombastic to describe the last song, but I might use it similarly here, although I don't think I mean it in the same way that you mean it. Like this felt big at points. Like there were some really big like synth hits, and overall the feeling that I got from this track, it kind of reminded me of like the ending theme in anime.
Oh, for sure. Oh, totally. Yeah. I agree with you on that. I mean, like, let's break this track down. So the beginning sounds like some synth hits like threw up, like just vomited everywhere. It's just and then you get this very like whimsical kind of moment where you get what sounds like kind of like a hard rock kind of vibe, like an 80s Japanese kind of hard rock thing kind of flowing. Then right after that, dun 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 dun, it kicks into this thing that sounds like it's out of either an anime ending or like a JRPG. I got those kind of vibes where it's like do 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 do.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about for the anime ending. Yes.
Yeah, very very sweet sounding, very like flowy, and I got a very feminine vibe from that part of the track, and that makes sense because you're playing as Sonya.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Sonya's theme, so that makes sense.
But then it kicks into that later part, which is like super energetic, super exciting, very like traditional like fighting game Japanese action music. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I kind of got a like a fight scene type of a vibe. I think from that part, or like if not a fight scene, then like running or chasing through like the woods or over water or something. It's
definitely like a galloping bass kind of thing going on. Doop dicka doop dicka doop.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good track. And then I love the way that it loops back into the like, synth hit vomit.
That's what we're calling this
starts
now.
Back up again. Yeah, the synth hit vomit. Yeah. I mean, like, there's no other way that I could possibly describe it other than synth hit vomit.
Fair enough.
So, Psychic Force, have you played this one or no? You never played this one? I've played the 2012 version. I've never played this one. But
is that the Dreamcast one?
Yeah, that's the Dreamcast one. Both games are very similar. They play very similar. First off, the plot of the game takes place in the distant year of 2010. Ooh. Where specific people have psychic abilities and powers. And those who have those powers are called Psychicers.
Wow, okay.
So they have different elements depending on what element they have. So like, fire, electricity, gravity, time, ice, lightning, that sort of thing. So wind, etc. Heart, yeah. Yeah, you could summon Captain Planet.
Nice.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So Sonya specifically is, quote unquote, a young bioroid psychicer woman who has the ability to use the psychic power of electricity in battle. She serves the NOA, which is like a independent group, I guess, or like the NOA is like an organization that is very mysterious, and they are made up of psychicers. So she serves NOA as well as another character called Keith. And she's actually Wendy, who's another character, Wendy's older sister, Chris, who was kidnapped and then turned into a bioroid by another character named Wong, or Richard Wong. Yeah. So lots of like backstory and, not quite as crazy as like maybe something like Guilty Gear, but still like, I mean, like the main character's name is Burn Griffiths. Burn Griffiths.
Wow.
That's hilariously awesome. And I'll give you one guess as to what his psychic power is.
It is the power to turn back time.
You got it.
Just like Cher said.
Just like Cher, yes. She was specifically quoting Burn Griffiths. If I could turn back, burn. No. It's fire.
Yeah.
So this game is cool because it plays unlike any other fighter that I've personally played, because everything is based in a cube. So you're basically hovering inside this giant force field cube thing. Even though the cube aspect is kind of 3D-ish, the gameplay itself is in 2D, but it physically feels like a 3D game, sort of.
It's like 2.5D?
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of hard to explain.
You're fighting back and forth on just a straight plane, right? There's no back and forward, but everything looks 3D?
I think the planes, I got to remember because it's been a really long time, but I think the planes curve in a way where like you're still going like left to right. So if you punch somebody on the left-hand side of the screen, and they fly over to the right-hand side of the screen, let's say for argument's sake. Basically what happens is it rotates. I think, if I recall, again, it's been a really long time since I played, but...
Neat.
Yeah. And then there's like this thing called the Psycho Gauge, which is like your super move, sort of. Another cool thing is that I think you can break through the force field.
Oh,
like where
get
you
outside.
could punch somebody. I think you can punch somebody so hard that you like break through the force field, if I recall. But I think that might be only on Psychic Force 2012, the Dreamcast version. I don't know. It's kind of like a sequel / reimagining or something like that. It's a pretty neat game. It's definitely a very different styled fighter, but it's one that I would highly encourage everyone to check out. If not just for the soundtrack, then, I don't know what else.
Not just for the soundtrack, then just for the game.
Yeah, exactly. The composer is Hideki Takahagi, who started off with Ninja Warriors doing the sound effects, I believe, on the Mega CD version. I believe it's the Mega CD version. Then did the Jetsons' Invasion of the Planet Pirates in 94. They also worked on some other stuff that we'll be talking about later, but their last game was Pita Pat Beat in 2014. They're credited for sound.
Neat.
Yep. So cool track, definitely a lot to kind of digest in that song, but we're going to be going to something that's a little bit more, not simplistic, but like a little bit more straightforward, I think.
Yep. So that would be Dungeon Magic, which came out in arcades in 1994. The track that I've picked here is called Now We Cut Off the Hideous Chains, and then in parentheses, Fight. And this was composed by Norihiro Furukawa.
It's a destiny.
Welcome back to XVGM Radio's Focus episode on Taito and Zuntata. The track we just heard was called Now We Cut Off the Hideous Chains, and it was from Dungeon Magic, the 1994 arcade game, and was composed by Norihiro Furukawa.
Whoa. Don't you dare forget that parentheses in the fight. Fight.
And now this is not to be confused with the 1989 also Taito game called Dungeon Magic, Sword of the Elements, that came out in the NES. These games are unrelated. They just happen to share a name, and I'll get into that in a second.
So, Justin, I gotta wonder here. We're dealing with a lot of games and songs that have little crazy sound effects in the beginning or throughout the track. So, what do you think this character is saying in the beginning of this track?
So, to me, I am hearing "Oops" and "Destiny."
And Destiny.
I don't understand it. Maybe we are hearing the end of a really weird conversation. He was talking about how a lot of things are preordained, and I can do this and I can do that, and that's everything. Oops, and Destiny. That's another thing. That's what I hear.
I heard, "Oops, I'm Destiny."
Oh no! What a mistake! I've become Destiny.
Yeah. or like, I was thinking it was more like he just figured out his name was Destiny. Let's say his name was like, because he sounds like a giant troll.
Yeah.
So it's just like, me Quarthar, me evil troll villain, me destroy you or whatever. And then then somebody's like, wait a minute, isn't your name Destiny? And he's like, "Oops, I'm Destiny."
That's awesome. All right. What'd you think of the track, though?
Soul Calibur much? I mean, like,
yeah, Soul Calibur,
wow.
Before Soul Calibur.
I was definitely like vibing to this. Like, this is the type of music that if it came on during like me just trying to find video game music, I would just chill out and listen to it while I'm doing other stuff. Like, I wouldn't. This isn't the sort of thing that I would listen to rock out to. You know what I mean? It was just like really bombastic classical music. I know we're using the word bombastic quite a bit, but to me, bombastic music is stuff that you would find in stuff like Soul Calibur or Dungeon Magic, for example. So just really like classically influenced specifically, and that's the vibe that I got.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would add to that definition that it's usually orchestrated. When we're talking about bombastic stuff, there's usually like orchestration to it, and I think the drums play a lot into that too. Because like in this one, I was getting in the beginning, especially a lot of bass, and not just like bass sounds, but like there's a lot of drums, there's a lot of like low brass and stuff, and it almost drowns out the melody for a bit. But then like within the first minute you get that, and then everything else kind of comes in and it gets truly bombastic, and there's all this other stuff, and the melody gets its own chance to shine, and it soars, and it's just really neat.
Yeah, it's a good classical music track that really gets you going. So it gets a thumbs up from me.
Cool.
I've never heard of this game though, so you'll have to fill me in on the info for it.
Yeah, so this is a single or multiplayer beat 'em up. I don't know if beat 'em up is exactly right. I might almost compare it to more like Gauntlet, the classic arcade and NES classic. But so the name Dungeon Magic is what it was known as in the US as well as parts of Europe. In other parts of Europe as well as Japan, it was known as Lightbringer. So there's not really a whole lot about the name there. It's unusual in the sense that it came out in Europe as both, like there's the Lightbringer version and the Dungeon Magic version, and then it happens to share the name with Taito's Dungeon Magic Sword of the Elements, but it has no relation apparently. So
right. I mean, to add to the confusion, the Dungeon Magic NES game was developed by Natsume and published in Japan by Natsume, but was released, published by Taito in the US.
That makes a little bit more sense on how that happened then.
Yeah.
But so the plot to this game is that there's an evil magician who's brought back an evil spirit and is trying to basically seize control of the kingdom that y'all live in. So he kidnapped the princess, and he plans to use her as a sacrifice in his ritual. So 4 warriors come together to try to save the princess. So you have Ash, the knight, who uses a sword. Gren, the roving warrior. He's kind of a martial artist. He's the kind of balanced character.
The monk.
Yeah. Then you have Sisty, the elf, who
Sisty?
Yeah, Cisty.
Okay, not cysty like you have a cyst in your body.
I'm pretty sure that's how you spell cyst. Cist.
No, I thought it's cyst.
Oh no, I think you're right. I forgot about that. So yeah, so she's not full of cysts. She's just an elf named.
You
Sisty.
picture that like
Gross. She'd be dead.
It's this like elf covered in cysts, like
Writhing on the ground.
Hi, I'm Sisty. Nice to meet you.
This is my sister, Syphilis E.
Yeah.
But yeah, her deal is her family was actually destroyed by the spirit that the magician brought back. So she knows that it's terrible and wants to end it. And then the 4th character is an old magician named Vold.
Why are the magicians always old in these games?
It's because to be a magician or a wizard, you need to be wise, and wisdom truly only comes from age. Like, you have to experience life to be wise.
For like a hot second, I thought you were going to make some sort of Pokemon reference.
Oh, I probably could
like,
have,
well, to be a mage, you've got to be
the very best.
To be the very best. Like no one ever was.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's coming from the D&D and RPG gaming background. You don't have to be an old character to be a wizard, but it generally, like, your power tends to come from wisdom, and when you take that from a life experience thing, like, children don't have wisdom. Like, you haven't lived through enough to have wisdom. You may have minor bits of wisdom about things that maybe you know about climbing trees because you've broken your arm a million times. But
hey Justin.
Sorry.
I guess that's why they call them
wizards.
Yeah. Oh snap!
That's I need that Simpsons clip. That's the joke. That makes sense. I don't know if that actually is the joke, but I've always made that in D&D. It's easy to remember because if you're playing a wizard, then your main stat is wisdom.
Yeah, that or you work at Nobody Beats the Wiz.
True. Yeah. They've been closed for so long, I forgot about them. Somebody did beat them. So
yeah, apparently.
I think it was City.
I think it must. Yes. It was another wizard.
Yeah.
So this game is an isometric game, right?
Yes. Isometric viewing angle, and it also involves some platforming as opposed to just like straight up beat 'em up and whatnot.
I think this was ported to the Switch fairly recently.
Oh,
yeah, and I think it's also on the Taito Legends 2 collection too.
Yes, it definitely is in Taito's Legend 2. I don't know about the Switch because I didn't see that listed, but if it was ported in some collection, or if it was just they bring over like arcade games and stuff like that occasionally to the Switch, so that would totally make sense.
Yeah, that collection, the Taito Collection 2, is such a great collection of Zuntata-based games and Taito-based developed games. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, some of these games sound really cool, a lot of them ended up on Taito Legends 2, and depending on the version you get for Taito Legends 2, like if you get the PS2 version or the Xbox version, they offer different types of games. Like some are exclusive to certain consoles.
There's a Windows version, but it's literally the same as the Xbox. So
yeah. So may as well just get the Xbox version if you're console.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ooh, and G Darius is actually on that, but it's only in the PS2 version. So
yeah, I have the PS2 version of the Taito Collection 2. There's another Taito Collection 1, but it doesn't have as many games on it. Another game that is on the collection is Elevator Action Returns, which has a phenomenal soundtrack and is a really cool game.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Norihiro Furukawa has done so much stuff. Yeah. They started out in audio doing sound editing on Sagaya in 1989, and a lot of their credits here are sound effects or sound editing. So just to pull out some of the music stuff, they did music and sound on Arabian Magic in 1992 and Technic Beat in 2002, and their most recent music credit is Lost Magic in 2006.
Very cool. So we're moving from dungeons to pyramids, I guess. This is Cleopatra's Fortune. This came out on the arcade in 1996, and that's the version we're going to be hearing from. It also came out on something called the Taito X55, which came out in 1995, the Sega Saturn in 97, the PlayStation 1, and the Dreamcast in 2001. This track is called Shinin' Queen, and it's by Shuichiro Nakazawa and Hideki Takahagi. It's an all-you-can-win buffet at Daddy Mulk's Casino in East Bumbleyuck, Pennsylvania, as we're getting unleashed in the East thanks to the sights and sounds of Japanese video game developer Taito. We're pulling out all the stops to make this a series of nights you won't forget, with all-stars like Kunoichi and Ninja showing off their skills every 2 hours at center stage. Then, make sure to visit our blackjack tables to play against none other than Aqua Jack, a giant deadly hovercraft that knows how to play cards? You bet! Round the corner and head into ancient Egypt with the Cleopatra's Fortune video poker games. Stop by our giant floating fish den for a once-in-a-lifetime concert by Taito's in-house music band, Zuntata. All this and more at Daddy Mulk's Casino in East Bumbleyuck, Pennsylvania. Taito sponsorship ending after next week, so hurry in and win today. Wow, that was Cleopatra's Fortune. That is the arcade game that we listened to from 1996, the Taito X55 in 1995, the Saturn in 97, and the PS1 and Dreamcast in 2001. This track was Shinin' Queen, and it's by Shuichiro Nakazawa and Hideki Takahagi. So I gotta ask, Justin, what was that voice saying in the beginning? What do you think?
I went back to listen to that a number of times, and I cannot decipher a GD thing from it. I mean, the closest I can get is I'm not even sure what the phrase is in Japanese. It's something like tasukete, but it's not long enough, and I can't even I can't even remember what it means. I know I used to know. There's a number of Japanese words and phrases that I used to know, but for whatever reason I don't even remember how to spell it. I think it's 2 words, but I have no idea. But what do you think they're saying? I am dying to know.
I think she's saying test your burger.
Test your burger. Okay. I'll
test your burger. Test your burger. Doesn't it sound like that?
Yeah. I would go with that.
That's the vibe that I got. She wants you to test your burger before you eat it.
Fair enough. Tasukete means help me. So it's probably she could be saying that.
Taisukete burger. Taisukete burger. There we go. Help my burger.
Help my burger, yes. That's probably it.
This is a falling block puzzle game with like an anime Egyptian vibe to it.
I would probably call it
the characters.
A waifu vibe.
A waifu, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
that's what a lot of people say about this game. They like a lot of the female characters that are in it, and it's all over the internet.
Yeah, apparently. But it looks pretty cool. I mean, first off, I'll say that the U.S. art looks like something out of ActRaiser. It's got, that pretty generic-looking Cleopatra, not even Cleopatra, like a King Tut head with some pyramids in the background.
Nice.
Whereas the Saturn Japanese version of it is like Cleopatra, being all waifu-ish with some goofy mummies in the background and stuff, so... not for nothing. I think I prefer that version just because it's a little bit, it stands out more.
Yeah. Because I see a couple different ones. Like the one that I see most commonly is actually, it's her with the purple hair and the purple hat with the purple snake on it, and she's kind of like reclining with her feet in the air.
Yeah, this one. The Saturn
one.
Like,
okay, sorry.
The Saturn one, she's like bent over.
She's showing a lot of leg.
Yeah.
But so is that guy in the background.
That's true. Is that a guy?
I don't
even know.
Person, yeah. I'm sorry.
Human, cat thing, whatever that being is. Yeah, like a cat, girl, man. Cat, girl, man. There we go.
Man, bear, pig.
So, yeah, man, bear, pig. Cleopatra Fortune, it's a game where you have falling blocks. You have players trying to bury gems and sarcophagi inside of a tomb. So you've got different sets of like different rotatable stones and different items that fall from the top of the screen, and those do different things depending on where they land. So all the gems in the sarcophagus disappear inside, and then you can score points by clearing the stones. The interesting thing is that it came out for a system called the Taito X55. So the Taito X55 is a karaoke/game console. Yeah, pretty wacky. It apparently does connect through the internet, but only through a phone line.
Good old
dial-up. Good old dial-up. You'd like, yes.
Anyway.
Sounds like you're strangling a computer.
Yes.
What customers would do is they would dial in codes for songs or games on the remote, and it downloads to the console, and then you can sign in and play. So it's basically a service.
That's pretty cool. The X55 in 1995. I'm not sure when this other thing was done, but since we're talking about Taito and Zuntata, Zuntata actually helped in the creation of Taito's karaoke machine, not karaoke video game, but just karaoke machine called the X2000. So I'm guessing the X55 is either a precursor or it's got to be related in some way, because they're both made by Taito and they both do karaoke. So that's cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. There's most likely some sort of a line in there. So it was designed by Kenji Kaito for the Taito X55. He did mostly development type stuff, so nothing regarding audio. He did some art on some games, but the real people that we need to be talking about for this wonderful burger help track is Shuichiro Nakazawa, who did Night Striker in 93, Hat Trick Hero 95 in 1994, Bust a Move again in 95. Their final game was Psychic Force 2012 in 1999, where they did the arrangement of the original music.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Hideki Takahagi is the other composer. Started off with Ninja Warriors doing sound effects. Last game they came out with was Pit-a-Pat Beat in 2014. Some other games that they released were Exit 1 and Exit 2 in 2005 and 2009, respectively. They were the composer on that one.
Nice.
So, yeah, pretty neat game. I'll have to track this down on the Saturn. That feels like that's probably the most Japanese way to play this. I don't know. Speaking on the music itself, I enjoyed the music here, and there's a lot to like in this soundtrack. A lot of it is very, very similar to this, with that kind of like flowy vibe to it. But
Like puzzle game
I don't
music.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good puzzle game music for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the track itself was really cool. I enjoyed sort of the heavy bass kick throughout the track. Like it startled me at first, but as it blended into the rest of the track, it was pretty powerful. The best thing about this, hands down, is that weird stereo laughing. It just the laughing bounces back and forth between the left and right channels.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
But I like it.
Yeah. Well, looks like we can move into our next track, which is your pick. What do you got for us?
Yes, this is Sevalian. I think I'm saying that correctly. Sevalian, one of those.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Yeah. This we're going to hear the arcade version, which came out in 1988. There was also a release on the SNES in 1992. The name of the track is Confusion, and it was composed by Yasuhisa Watanabe. Welcome back. That was Sevalian, which came out in the arcades in 1988 and was then ported to the SNES in 1992. The track was Confusion, and it was by Yasuhisa Watanabe.
Indeed it was.
I saw the name Confusion, and I expected the opening rave scene track from the first Blade movie, and I did not receive that, but I wasn't disappointed. This was a really heavy track that had a lot of different things going on. I flagged that the guitar sounds were kind of twarmpy here, but I didn't really care that much.
Okay.
Like, it was just something that I noticed, because they didn't sound bad. It almost took my mind off of the rhythm and the melody so much, and I was paying a little bit more attention to the percussion, and I thought the snare sounded really good here. just in general, like I like the audio quality to that snare sample. And then I also, I feel like we don't hear it a lot recently. We talked about this way back, that like wood block clicking sound that's classic in some like Japanese music. I really enjoyed that. Like the whole percussion section kind of stood out to me in this track.
I'm getting some serious Toa Plan vibes. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I gotta go all the way back to episode 2 now.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's got that crunchy, like Yamaha kind of sound to it, but at the same time, it just reeks of Toa Plan in the best ways. I mean, like, I personally really dig that kind of twarmpy, crunchy sound that a lot of those games soundtracks have, but that is definitely the vibe that I got out of this. That it's very heavy metal influenced in that aspect, but then it kind of, once that melody kicks in, the like it's a lot more like tapered off a little bit. It feels like a natural progression to what they were trying to do. But, you know, sound-wise is what stands out to me. The instrumentation of this is what really stands out to me on this track. And I'm curious how it translates onto the Super NES, since it also came out on that. So I'll have to go back and compare.
Yeah, I think the Super NES had a different soundtrack.
So tell me about this game.
No. So this is another shoot 'em up. That's not a whole lot that I actually have on this. So it was designed by Fukio Mitsuji, who's the creator of Bubble Bobble, if that name isn't familiar to you.
Okay. Yep.
So I mean, going from Bubble Bobble to a shmup is it's kind of a leap. This looks to be in line with a lot of the shmups that I tend to play, with the not vertically scrolling, horizontally scrolling shooter.
Right.
Similar to Gradius, similar to Darius, stuff like that. So you are controlling a dragon, actually, like a long dragon that flies around. You can breathe fire and collect power-ups to recharge the fire. The enemies are basically just like robots and tanks. And at the end of every level, you know, as in all of these horizontally scrolling shmups, there is a boss that you fight. This game was also on the Title Legends 2 that we were talking about earlier. So
okay.
This is another thing. Like if this sounds interesting to you and you have or obtain that collection, it's on there.
So a little bit more about Zuntata. So the band has had countless members over the years, but some of the highlighted members include sound director Katsuhisa Ishikawa and bassist Yu Shimoda and Shohei Tsuchiya, as well as drummer Masaki Mori. Another fun fact about Zuntata as far as the band, when you see them live, they all wear these like very pseudo-futuristic jumpsuits. When you watch the live footage, and they're either like bright orange or bright red, very Kraftwerk-like in a lot of ways. And I really dig the vibe that they go for from a visual level. But like listening to and watching them play is just such a treat, because I always really love watching video game music composers playing the music in real time, because you get to see like it translated onto actual like real instruments instead of like, you know, a keyboard or like a synthesizer or a computer chip of some sort, you know, a built-in driver or whatever. So it's just really cool to see like an actual live band performing these songs. So I highly encourage, after you watch or listen to this episode, go check out some of Zuntata's live shows on YouTube. They've done tons of different shows. Some of the ones that really stand out to me, at least, are the earlier, like late 80s, early 90s shows, as well as like their more like experimental techno stuff, which was in like the mid to late 90s, like 97, 99. So now that we have wrapped up with this very kind of weird, twarmpy, action-y kind of track, we're going to go to something that sounds like Sega produced it. So instead of, you know, going from Toa Plan, we're going to something that it sounds like Sega made it.
Yeah.
This is RC to Go. This came out in the arcade in 99 and the PS1 in 2000. This track is called Hearts on Fire. I swear it doesn't have anything to do with Rocky IV. It's by Sayori Kuniko.
Okay.
Hey, you're back, and that was RC to Go. It's an arcade racing game that also came out on the PS1 in 1999 and 2000, respectively. That track was Hearts on Fire, and it was by Sayori Kunichiko. Yes. Good stuff. Yeah. I was vibing to this hard. Really awesome, just laid back, chill, Sega style arcade racing music.
I was just gonna say that this reminds me of some of the Sega racing stuff.
Yeah, like Sega Rally type stuff.
Exactly, my dear friend Rally.
Yes,
not that song specifically. I just you said Rally, so I had to say it.
Right.
But yeah,
except there's no game over yet.
No, unfortunately, but there should be.
Yeah.
But this was just really cool. Like I feel like this is nifty driving music. Like I might pop this on when we get back to work and I have to travel long distances again. I might actually just grab the soundtrack, assuming that there's more like this on there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the whole soundtrack is very similar to this type of stuff. Very like Sonic Adventure, Daytona, kind of meets Sega Rally. Like that whole late 90s, early 2000s Sega vibe with electronic guitars and jam bands. So really cool stuff. I was shocked when I heard this. In fact, I was talking to Ed about it when we were trying to confirm tracks and everything. And I sent him this, and I was like, dude, you gotta listen to this song. And he was like, yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, good stuff. So RC to Go is an arcade racing game. The game features RC car racing. So it's not like those super crazy in-depth racing games, which is perfect for me because I am not at all a racing guy.
You're talking about like the realistic, like Forza and stuff like that?
Yeah, Forza and, or like F1 racers or any of that type of stuff. Like I'm a Mario Kart guy, Chocobo racing, those type of games, or like arcade racing, arcade style games. So this was right up my alley. It has a single race mode, a championship mode, and time trials. And you're playing with RC style gameplay for the RC cars. What's cool about the arcade version is that it utilized RC style controllers as well. Like the little RC cars.
Huh.
Yeah, pretty neat. This game was developed by Taito, but it was published by Acclaim, at least worldwide. It was published by Taito in Japan. And I guess what happened was Acclaim got bought out because they sold all their IPs to various different companies. But there's a publisher called Throwback Entertainment that bought the IP for this, and then they, I guess, converted it into the Revolt series.
Revolt?
I don't know if you remember Revolt.
No.
Revolt was like an RC car kind of similar style, but you can export and edit tracks and players and stuff like that, and cars. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so this game wasn't really necessarily a part of that series. I don't know why the information's included online, but a lot of gamers are comparing the game more to RC Pro-Am.
Oh, on the NES?
Yeah, the Rare game. Yep,
That's cool. Yeah, I own that. I enjoy that game. I don't play it very frequently, but it is a game that I hold nostalgia for.
Yeah. And this game did have support by the Taito GNet as well, which I believe is our online system too. So pretty neat.
Very
cool. Yeah, I really dug this track, and it was just like such a great find, and I'm absolutely going to download the rest of the soundtrack and probably hunt down the game. So good job, Sayori. Speaking of Sayori, Sayori Kunichiko did the soundtrack for this. This is the only game that they are credited for.
Well, it's a good one
Short
to go
and
out
sweet.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of short and sweet, it looks like we are getting a call on our Red Phone Patreon line.
Yes, we are. So we may as well pick up that call. Caller, you are on the air. What can we play for you?
Hey, this is Carlos from the Heroes 3 podcast, and this week I'd like to hear Burning Road from Night Striker. So this is actually the Sega CD version of Night Striker. So like a lot of CD-based ports, they went crazy for the time and rearranged the whole album. So here we get some really deep, juicy synths and some really funky bass. So I really hope you guys enjoy listening to Burning Road from Night Striker.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Carlito, for the pick. We're going to hear Night Striker, which came out in the arcade in 1989. the Mega CD in 1993. Not Sega. I don't recall seeing it for the Sega CD, but I'll have to go and double check. The PlayStation 1 in 1995 and the Sega Saturn in 1996. This track is called Burning Road, and the original composer is Masahiko Takaki, but the arrangers are Hisayoshi Ogura, Tamayo Kawamoto, Yasuhisa Watanabe, and Shuichiro Nakazawa.
You're listening to XVGM Radio. Hey party people, that was Night Striker, the 1989 arcade release, but actually the 1993 Mega CD release, which also came out on the PS1 in 95 and the Saturn in 96. Track was Burning Road, picked by our Patreon Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast. And the composers on that were Hisayoshi Ogura, Tamayo Kawamoto, Yasuhisa Watanabe, Shuichiro Nakazawa, and Masahiko Takaki, who was the original composer.
I was really digging this, like, beginning kind of had like a Silk Stockings vibe, if anyone's ever seen that show. It's got that, like, like, very tribal drums kind of, and then it kind of motions or moves into this like very synthy kind of detective track. That's the vibe that I got from it. It was very energetic, but also at the same time very moody and very laid back. It was a really interesting way for it to kind of become what it is.
Yeah, I kind of felt similar to your RC track. I felt this was a really good kind of cruising track.
Yeah.
Just not anything in particular, not like road trip or like rage driving or anything, just like cruising, taking off. I mean, you probably could use this on a road trip, but like it goes through, like you said, so many different things. That's how I feel about it.
I get what you mean, but I feel like this is a lot more intense than the RC to go track.
Oh, for sure. Like I didn't mean it's the comparison was mostly because like the RC track is something that I would definitely play in my car.
Right.
This is something else that I would play in my car. They feel different, but they are both to me kind of like on the road tracks. They're things that I would listen to while driving.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I felt like it was very like synth pop. I got a very synth pop, Depeche Mode kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I actually, now that you mentioned that, I do hear a lot of the synth. I don't think I recognize a lot of the synth pop type stuff that will come out in video game music because it's already so produced and so synthy.
Right.
My brain just doesn't sort of like put the pieces into place.
That's
a good. Yeah.
I got a very heavy influence from Depeche Mode's "People Are People," because that kind of also starts off with those drums that are very similar, and then it kind of folds into this more like synth poppy kind of, but still kind of dark and percussion led track.
Yeah.
So that for me at least, that's what I heard personally.
No, that's fair. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm actually gonna have to go back and listen to this one a few more times. Like I was grooving out to it, I was really enjoying it, but I don't think I listened to it as in-depthly or intensely as I do some other things, because it just kind of, I got a very, very immediate vibe from it, and kind of just like laid back and went with it.
I feel what you're putting out. Night Striker is a third-person shooter. It kind of reminds me of Space Harrier a little bit.
Ooh.
In that aspect. The plot is that there's a laser optics expert. His name is Dr. Lindveri Maska. And his daughter has been kidnapped by a terrorist group, and a elite group called the Special Service Agency is mobilizing to get these soldiers that are experienced in like flying cars and stuff like that, like these armored flying cars, in order to rescue Dr. Maska and his daughter. And they're trying to destroy this terrorist group. So that's the plot. The Sega CD version of the game has remixed audio, as you heard. The Saturn version has a set of exclusive bonus levels. So that's the difference between the Sega CD, or rather Mega CD, and Saturn versions of the game. Yeah.
Neat.
This requires you to fly through stages, controlling this car, kind of like that other game that we talked about earlier, Aqua Jack.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that as well a little bit. But at the end of each level, there's a boss, and after you defeat the boss, you have to choose which path to take for the next stage.
Oh, kind of like Star Fox and what else is done?
And Darius, apparently.
Cool.
So instead of lives, you have a shield that takes damage, but it gets recharged at the end of each stage.
That's cool.
And that's Night Striker. It's pretty
neat.
Yeah. So there's a ton of composers that we've already mostly covered.
We talked about Mr. Ogura.
Yep.
We talked about Mr. Watanabe.
I don't think we talked about Tamayo Kawamoto.
No, and I don't think we talked about Masahiko Takaki either. We did talk about Shuichiro Nakazawa.
So Tamayo, she started off with Section Z. So she started off actually working for Capcom as a composer, then following it up with games like Commando, Tiger Road, and Black Tiger, Legendary Wings, Ghouls and Ghosts, lots of different games. Ended up moving into working on the Ninja Warriors in '93, doing the Mega CD drama music for the more dramatic moments of the cutscenes, basically. And then followed it up with this game, Night Striker, and just continued working on Zuntata-based games. So left Capcom, joined Zuntata, went from Alf Lila to Zuntata as far as bands go. And their latest game was Pita Pat Beat in 2014. And before that, they were sound production support on Thunder Force 6.
Nice. Masahiko Takaki started doing music composition in Top Speed in 1987, so they started with Taito and kind of just stayed with them. They also did music composition on Darius Plus in 87, as well as Superman in 1988, and then from there it's a lot of sound design and stuff like that. But they also came back to do music arrangement in Continental Circus in 1989. Warrior Blade Rastan Saga Episode 3 in 92, and then finally Gamera 2000 in 1997. Their last game for audio, they're credited as sound on Pita Pat Beat in 2014, which you mentioned.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, then. So what's your next pick?
So next up here, I have a game called Thunderfox. It is a game that came out in arcades in 1990. And then on the Genesis in 1991. So we're going to hear the Genesis version. And the name of the track is Mine in Stage 4. And it was composed by Kazuko Umino in the arcades. I don't have Genesis specific information. Welcome back to XVGM Radio, where we are digging into Taito games, specifically Zuntata music scores, soundtracks, stuff like that.
Accurate.
So what we just heard was Mine, Stage 4, from Thunderfox. This was the Genesis version that came out in 91. It was a port of an arcade game from 1990, and the arcade composer on this was Kazuko Umino. I couldn't find any credits for the Genesis version, so pretty sure it's still the same track, but it's been arranged.
I got some, again, serious Toaplan vibes. It almost sounds like if Toaplan wrote a spy song.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I got, because the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but like the thing that really kind of kills the song for me is that beginning part with the da-da-da-da-da. Like anytime it sounds like somebody's just banging on some notes, it sounds like a 2-year-old got a hold of a keyboard, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like nails on a chalkboard for me. You were mentioning during the break that this sounded like another Toaplan song, and you found it. What was the name of the game again?
So the game was Teki Paki, Toaplan game, and the track that we were talking about was Quick Junk Sequence, which we actually played on episode 2, the Toaplan episode.
Yeah.
And while they're not the same song by any means, there's a lot of similarities there. Like it feels like they almost, sort of like what you were saying, like Toaplan made a spy song. Like it feels like they took the music from Teki Paki and adapted it to like Spy Hunter or something like that.
I could see that, yeah. It's interesting because that Teki Paki, to give you an example, that Teki Paki track in the beginning does kind of sound like noise as well, but I think the difference is it's noise that is more like an industrial vibe, that in Teki Paki, but in this track, the notes are off, almost like off key, and that's what really kind of drives me bonkers about this track is that part. The rest of the track is great. I don't have any issues with it, but that one part just really kind of sours it.
I can understand that. The opening to this was very like there's a kind of a sinister vibe to it with the discord that they're using between the notes. So I can see that. So this game, Thunderfox, is a side-scrolling, horizontally scrolling shooter, not to be confused with the space shmups that I've been talking about throughout most of this episode. This is more of like a beat-em-up shooter, so similar to Contra rather than Gradius. So I have not played this one, and there's not a whole lot of information I could actually find on it. So other than the plot of the game, which takes place in the far-flung future of 1990X, and the world is lost in a vortex of terror, they say.
Of course.
A vortex, I mean, it's crazy. But some malicious terrorism as opposed to...
It's terror.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, as opposed to benevolent terrorism, malevolent terrorism has gripped the land, the sky, and the sea. But there were two brave men who fought against this reign of violence. They were the anti-terrorism team known as Thunderfox. So Thunder is the firearms expert, and Fox is a knife user. So,
okay.
But the levels are all divided into multiple sections, and the action in this game is actually more focused on close combat using the knife. Other enemies, they drop weapons like grenades and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it actually sounds kind of interesting.
Cool.
It definitely looks like a 1990 beat 'em up, shoot 'em up game.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the Taito arcade games from back in the day just. It's not that they didn't age well, it's that they were a product of their time, so to speak. So, but, hey, the games are still fun, and the soundtracks are bumping, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Kazuko Umino has had a handful of soundtracks under their belt. They started out on this game, actually, Thunderfox in 1990. They went on to do music in Under Fire in 1994, as well as Soccer America International Cup in 2000. And everything else they have here is sound, or they did background music arrangement on Psychic Force 2012 in 1999. And they also did voice acting in Bust a Move 4 in 1998. So that's kind of cool.
Probably as like one of the little characters or whatever.
Yeah. She's listed as voice actress. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice. So we're moving into a game called Gamera 2000. And this came out on the PlayStation 1 in 1997. And yes, it is based on the Godzilla character. This track is called The Promise. And then in parentheses, it's To Be Born Again and See You. How very enlightening. The composer on this one, there were two of them, Masahiko Takaki and Shuichiro Nakazawa. Thanks for joining us back on our Zuntata Deep Dive. This track was from Gamera 2000. 5000. And this came out on the PS1 in 1997. This track was called The Promise. And then in parentheses, it says, To Be Born Again and See You. And this track was by Masahiko Takaki and Shuichiro Nakazawa. So this track was a little different than the rest of the stuff that we've had so far. I mean, it's got that overdriven guitar like later on, but like I think the thing that really stands out to me is that like very moody synth that do 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 do. It's like it's got like trills like in it.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I've written down was it's a lot easier to hear in the beginning and at the end, but the piano that they're just doing these like grace notes on, and it's really cool. Like it adds this like almost like a twinkling effect to the song. I was like, I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I'm talking about, so that's good.
Yeah, I do. I feel what you're putting out there.
Yeah, but I really appreciated that. And the rest of the song, it didn't like wow me or anything, but I thought it was really nice and really relaxing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I feel like this is a chill track. And you know what's weird is the rest of the soundtrack is super techno-y.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. The rest of the soundtrack is like all techno and really long songs, too. Like 12-minute songs, 8-minute songs, 6-minute songs. Yeah. And I was like, I want something a little shorter, but I want something to really like kind of end on, at least in terms of my own tracks. So I went with this one, but I definitely recommend and encourage people to go check out the rest of the soundtrack because it is super crazy high energy techno stuff. It's really good. And there's a lot of neat stuff in the soundtrack. There's one track called Man Machine, and it's got some really cool like techno trance elements in there. And then like it's got some almost Kraftwerk kind of like man machine kind of like vocals in the background. So it's pretty cool.
So how much do you know about Gamera?
I know nothing about Gamera. I know that this game plays like Panzer Dragoon, as you don't have direct control of the jet fighter that you take on to defeat the bad guys. You're playing as a character named Jack, who is the star pilot. Together with a doctor named Mikanuki, you are trying to blow through several stages to take out various different monsters. There's different bosses that require you to attack specific parts of their body while you kind of circle around them. Very similar to like Star Fox sort of thing. But you can call Gamera to aid you. So in attacking.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're not playing as Gamera, but you're allowed to summon Gamera.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I was expecting that you're playing as this giant mutant turtle thing that breathes fire and spins in its shell. Like Gamera is silly. Like I'm sure you know the basics. Like it was a kaiju monster that was created to compete with like Godzilla and all that stuff. And I mean, it got popular in Japan. Gamera is also I love his aliases or nicknames. The Friend of All Children and the Guardian of the Universe.
Okay.
Some of these movies have been shown in MST3K. I think season 3 has a number of episodes where they watch Gamera movies and they make up little songs about Gamera. It's good. Like the original movies, like if you like the old school Godzilla movies, you might like some of this. If you think that they're cheesy, you'll probably think these are awful. But the MST3K treatment really makes it fun and interesting.
Nice. That's awesome. So yeah, the game is a Panzer Dragoon-like game. There's some full motion video and some plot that kind of goes on as the game progresses. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. But I really have no experience with Gamera. So.
Fair enough.
I'd also like to note that this is not developed by Taito or published by Taito. It's developed by Surveyor Corp and published by Daytai Digital Entertainment. But we did cross-reference the soundtrack specifically, and Zuntata did do the work on the soundtrack. Yeah, really weird. Huh. But
so they did the music for a game outside of their normal company.
Yeah. I mean, they've again, like we were talking about before with Ninja Warriors. Once again, they release music with other companies. It's just they're primarily Taito.
That's fair. And actually, speaking of that brings me to a good little bit of info and trivia for Zuntata. So their first released album was actually a Darius album, Taito Game Music Volume 2, which was in 1987, right around the time that they started using the name Zuntata. But right now, they release music under the Zuntata label. So they're a band and they are their own label. But when they started, they actually were under other labels. So in 1987, they were under Alpha/GMO Records. And then between 88 to 95, they actually released music under Citron and Pony Canyon.
Oh, okay. I think Pony Canyon is more outside the country.
I think
Japan.
I think Citron is the Japan releases, and Pony Canyon is the is the other, or it might be the other way around. But somebody will know, and somebody will correct us. And then in 1996, that's when they started releasing under the Zuntata label.
So the composers, again, Masahiko Takaki and Shuichiro Nakazawa, we've talked about already. So we can move into our final pick, Justin.
That's me.
Yay.
So this track is going to be from a more recent game. Oh, we're jumping way ahead here. This is Arkanoid versus Space Invaders. This came out on iOS and Android in 2017. The track is called Chilled Vouse and was composed by Hirokazu Koshio and Shoei Tsuchiya. Hey everybody, that was the last track of this episode. So thank you for sticking around. The game was Arkanoid vs. Space Invaders. The track was Chilled Vouse, and it came out on iOS and Android systems in 2017. It was composed by Hirokazu Koshio and Shoei Tsuchiya.
That was anything but chilled. I tried to lull everybody to sleep, and Justin here decided he wanted to pump everyone's veins full of ecstasy. I don't know.
Well, honestly, like, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. The show's almost over. Like, you gotta get out. Sorry.
Thanks. Closing time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. This was super bumping and grinding, and it was like walking into a techno club, you know, or going to an EDM festival or whatever. I really love when the bass drops, though. Like,
yes.
Oh, it's so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the best part of the track for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight up dance music. I love it. I also marked down, like, I feel like this could be in Rez. I mean, another one of my favorite music-based games.
Ah.
I mean, it would need a little bit of tweaking to fit the format of Rez, but I could really, just with how powerful the bass is and how much, like, I kind of feel it internally, and that's what, like, all of the tracks in Rez do. Like, you feel the music and you go along with it. Right. And it just... This game is still available on iOS and Android. It is $5.99. I just bought it because now I've listened to some of the other tracks from the soundtrack. The soundtrack is very much like this. It is very dancey. It is very electronic, and it's great. And I don't know why it took me listening to the song again right now to go like, you know what, I'm going to get this.
Nice.
But it's not too expensive. And
$6 well spent.
So for those who are wondering, what is Arkanoid versus Space Invader? Those are two very different games.
Yes.
That it's exactly what it sounds like. So the game takes elements from both Arkanoid and Space Invader. So you are the Vouse spacecraft, which is the paddle from Arkanoid, basically.
Right.
So
which is basically Breakout, for those who don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are at the bottom of the screen, and there are Space Invaders coming down, and they are shooting at you. So you deflect the Space Invaders' bullets. And it's a current game, so it doesn't look like old Space Invaders or Arkanoid.
Right.
Like,
it's modern.
Yeah, exactly. It's updated. It looks cool. And there are a number of Taito characters that you can unlock. The Spy from Elevator Action is in there.
Nice.
Bub, Bob, and Drunk from Bubble Bobble are in there.
Cool.
Kunoichi and Ninja from the Ninja Warriors are in there.
Cool.
By the way, now we know the male ninja's name is just Ninja.
Just Ninja.
Sonic Blastman from Sonic Blastman.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of characters from Psychic Force are in there. So there's a lot going on. This is pretty nifty.
This reminds me gameplay-wise of Fire Striker for the Super NES. Where you're playing as like a mage or a knight who is like batting back the ball, and you're like trying to hit opponents or whatever with the whack of the sword. So you're like bouncing the ball back to the playing field, which is very like Arkanoid based or Breakout based. There's a more recent game that came out very similar called Strikey Sisters. It's an indie game that also plays very similar to Fire Striker. So if you like that type of gameplay with Arkanoid and you're looking for something where you're attacking other enemies other than Space Invaders, that might be another good option too.
Fair. That's pretty cool. So the composers on this one are Hirokazu Koshio, who started out doing sound effects and voice and data editors in 2008 for Space Invaders Get Even. And they have bounced around to do things all over the place. So they did Darius Burst music composition in 2009, QIX++ in 2010. They did music composition for that. They're also labeled as music arrangement on Super Smash Bros. For Wii U in 2014. Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors in 2015. And their final music composition is Rolling Gunner in 2018. And then Shoei Tsuchiya started out in 2003 doing sound section audio on Otogi 2 Immortal Warriors. Then we have music composition on Darius Burst in 2009, Elevator Action Deluxe in 2011, and then Super Smash Bros. For Wii and 3DS they did arrangements on. Their last composition credit is for this game. Before that, they did composition on Groove Coaster 3, Link Fever in 2016.
Cool. So, good place to end on, and quickly mention that after Square Enix bought out Taito, in 2005, a lot of the members of Zuntata left Zuntata due to creative differences with the executives. So they continue to produce music for Taito video games, working primarily on the Groove Coaster series, and those other developers or composers left to work on various different projects for all different kinds of game companies. But I'd say the most notable that a lot of Zuntata that's left over worked on was the Darius Burst.
Yes.
Yeah, tons of really awesome music on that.
Yeah.
I also want to add that we didn't touch on half of the truly amazing content from Zuntata. So if you liked what you heard today, definitely explore on your own. But maybe we'll do another episode in the future with an even deeper dive of their tunes, because they produce some great stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, we have to pick our favorite tracks, as we usually do at the end of each episode. So, Justin, what is your favorite pick of this episode?
I think I'm going to go with your Cleopatra's Fortune track, actually.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm having a tough time picking. I'm torn between the Psychic Force track, Carry Away Sonia's Theme, just because of how much it changes throughout the song, and the RC to Go track that I picked. I really love that Sonic Adventure style guitar work on that. But I also was really invested in the Night Striker track that Carlito picked. That was really good. Yeah, so tough stuff. It was just so tough to pick from all the stuff that we picked.
Yeah, I think we had a really solid lineup here.
Yeah, agreed. I think I'm going to go with the
RC?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that RC to Go, because I listened to the entire soundtrack and was just blown away by the whole thing. So I would say that. But I would say it's neck and neck afterwards between Psychic Force and the Night Striker track.
That's fair. I think that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
So we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Scott McElhone, Cam Worma, Chris Hart, Dan Lawton, Chris Murray, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Jordan and Anson Davis, Chris Myers, Llama Adam, Jeremy Rutz, Peter Panda, Ryan McPherson, Bedroth of the Very Good Music VGM podcast, Jason Super Jess Doss, Nick Davis, Matthew Hanola, Brad Austin, Muddle Madness, Mixmaster, and the Autistic Gamer 89. If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
And if you'd like what you've heard, please consider giving us a rating on iTunes and a review.
You can also join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at www.facebook.com/groups/xvgmradio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks, or just talking about the podcast itself.
And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for both of those sites is @XVGM Radio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
So in less than 2 weeks...
Less than a week, even.
less than a week, we are going to be releasing another episode, and it is a doozy.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got coming out, Justin?
This one is 25 years in the making. I mean, I don't know that we've been actively working on it for 25 years, but maybe, because...
We have not, no.
I mean, you never know.
You never know.
Leave a little mystery. But so it is the 25th anniversary of the game Chrono Trigger. So we are going to break tradition, as we have done I think once before for the Dreamcast episode.
Yes, yeah.
We're going to release on the 11th to commemorate, and then we will be going back to our regularly scheduled release schedule. So you will get 2 episodes in August, but they are very close to each other, and then the next episode will be out in September. So savor the Chrono Trigger.
Yes, just roll it around in your mouth for a little bit like it was Robo's helmet or Glenn's sword or
Frog's tongue.
Frog's tongue. Oh no, wait, ice cream.
Yes.
Ice cream. You know that stuff that Queen Lean loves.
Absolutely.
It's like the one thing from that game that I'll always remember. All right, so we'll see you in less than 2 weeks. Again, this is Mike
and Justin
signing off for XVGM Radio. Yeah, I think that was, which by the way, all of these tracks have been confirmed as definitely Zuntata. Our buddy Ed Wilson from VGMBassy stepped up, and I basically was like, hey, I need a third set of eyes, other than Justin and I. And he was gracious enough to double check all of them for us, and they are all confirmed to be Zuntata tunes. So,
so if we're wrong, blame Ed.
Yeah, if we're wrong, blame Ed. Exactly. So
they were the anti-terrorism team known as Thunderfox, and we never learned their names. I mean, maybe we do, but it's not in the description that I'm reading here.
What if one of their names was Thunder and their other name was Fox?
Oh my God. You're actually right.
Am I really?
Thunderfox is a horizontally scrolling shooter where the players take control of agents Thunder and Fox. I should have kept reading.
Funny. I didn't look it up. That's hilarious.
Oh, that is awesome.
That's amazing.